number 32. For everybody that's commented on my shirts, check this one out. Pink flamingos. Is that tacky or what? I think it's going to be my all-time favorite. Several things to go over. First of all, some kind of administrative stuff. 31 was late being posted because somehow or another I hit the private button on this deal. I could see it on my tablet, but it didn't post to everything else. And for the people that told me it's not there, and I said yes it is, I was able to view it on private but not on the internet, and I didn't even know I had a private button, but we got that resolved and 31 is posted. At least at my famous electronic glitches, at least I didn't blow anything up or shut the internet down or throw us haphazard into a parallel universe on that one, because I hate it when that happens. One other thing, in trying to get that resolved, I deleted accidentally number 28 and 29 with the thanks from Graham Stebbing, who sent me copies of those which I did not have to replace. Those will be back on the YouTube videos here shortly. Speaking of technical difficulties and so forth, the people that have commented on YouTube, I'm just not smart enough to know how to comment back. I'm not ignoring you. Steve Colley, shout out to you. Lived across the street from me when I was 10 years old. Several comments on there. Saw your boss at the race car auction several months ago, by the way. Well, I guess Errol's still the fire chief in Wichita Falls. I didn't think to ask him. Maybe he's already retired. But anyway, Steve, I'm not ignoring you. Saw where you see me at the Texas NASCAR race. Yeah, I still make it from time to time, but anymore they put me to work when I go there, which is not a bad thing sometimes. But you know, you hear the top half of the field with the big budgets and all that. Excuse me. And they have well established crews, but you know, the bottom half of the field, they're happy to be there and grabbing people wherever, and if you happen to already have a license, you're pretty valuable property there. They'll grab you out and send you over the wall. If you do the math on it, the third half of the field, they're just trying to get to the next race. And frankly, I got a lot more friends in that half of the field than the others. But yeah, I get tickled at my guys. Excuse me. Casablanca, my all-time favorite movie. There's a line in it where the inspector says, "Rick, you're a hopeless romantic. I know a little bit about you. You ran guns to Ethiopia. You fought with the loyalists in Spain." Rick says, "No, I'm not. I'm a mercenary. I was paid very well for that." And the inspector says, "Yeah, but the winning side paid much better." And I know, and a lot of times I've told my crew that, and proud to say my crew always answered with, "Yeah, but your life rule number 2, you run with what brung you." So anyway, we'll get to the build in a second. Speaking of waxing nostalgic here, Harold, if you're watching, I want to say one more thing. At my father's funeral, I fully expected a battalion from the Shepherd Air Force Base Fire Department, but when I looked out and saw the dress blues from the Wichita Falls Fire Department, that meant a lot to me, and I've thought about that quite a bit since. Now, back to what we're doing. A couple of things. First of all, we talked about this shifter and the electric emergency brake. We've got all that dummied up. We've got the correct linear actuator here. You can see what I've done here. This linear actuator moves right here. Your cables come in. This is a old brake cable, not the shifter cables, but you get the idea. Cables are going to come here, pull right here. This clevis catches the cables, pulls like so. When this is in its rest position, it hits the switch right here. And when it's off of it, it activates the e-brake light. But very simple little mechanism. I'm designing all of this in. This is the top half of the gas tank, where the e-brake and the shifter goes. It comes with a wiring harness, comes with a control module. This is what allows you to tell this thing not to go all the way. You can put set stops on it. All this comes with it. This is to program it. This is going to go on the dash. And we're going to have a very nice little electric e-brake deal. As long as we're talking about the shifter here, we moved it back to 2 inches that we talked about before. Something else I want to show you here. These shifters are made by Numeric for me. They are a competition Porsche shifter, but we do the base a little different so it can go in an application like this. A very nice product, nice setup. But you got to get from the metric Porsche stuff to the number 10 Morse cable stuff here. And in order to do that, this is McMaster car parts. It goes from metric threads to SAE threads to fine, or to coarse thread to fine number 10 thread. Does all that onto that rod in there like that. This same rod in here, the same deal. Adapter to adapter to adapter to finally get to the number 10 fine threads that you need. Well, that's about $20 worth of hardware from McMaster Car, which I don't buy anything else from. My buds at Control Cable Incorporated, which is where I buy all my Cablecraft stuff, the shifter cables for this, other components, said, hey, we've got some pieces that might work here. So, and these are $10 worth of hardware. Doesn't sound like a lot, but $10 times 900 cars is $9,000 difference in those two pieces right there. Only thing I got to do though, this is this long, this one's this long kind of deal, so it affects, this is where the cable ties into it. And again, wrong cable, but you get the idea. This needs to compensate because this distance right here is critical to make these cables work right. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to go to that. I'm going to use this. I'm going to eliminate a vendor. I'm going to eliminate a lot of hardware. I'm going to eliminate $9,000 out of my production run here. You can see these slots on the side right here where these cables catch. See, all of this was extremely tight in here. I finally got it all worked to where I can run cables. These cables back here are extremely tight to a big woofer magnet that sits here. The fuel filler's got the fuel pickup and instrument senders here. All this is extremely tight, but I've got it all working my way, and I'm real happy with all of that. Let me show you more on that later, but show you some other things here. What do you think? Now, on to our chassis. We've got stuff we've been cutting the last several days. We've got just about another chassis cut for the replacement chassis here. You can see I've kind of got some stuff dummied up here on it. You remember our jig table that I built using the CNC machine? This thing is absolutely level. Can you look right there and see the stops on the wheels? That's off the ground. This thing is absolutely perfectly square and level to build a chassis on. Got that other side dummied up. Let me just show you here with this, just to reiterate how we build a chassis. This is the passenger side floor pan. The front of the car is that way. When this thing goes in here, like so, see the holes in this, and the index holes in here, bushing there, bolt there, through there, down like so. There are numerous holes like that throughout the chassis. I'm just going to do a few of them so you can get the concept here. Look in there, over there. It's amazing to me how those fit. I mean, you don't have to wiggle them a little bit. But anyway, that is now absolutely dead nut. The two halves are together. The floor pan of the chassis is totally indexed to each other, totally level, ready to build up. I want to show you one other little change that we made here. These carpet pads, which I get from my upholstery deal, are pretty cheap and reasonable. Used to be this was all one coffer here. This sat on top of a piece of carpet with one good heel kick right here, and it lifts it up. So we made two different coffers here. Put that in its own individual one. That's going to countersink down in there like that. And those carpet pads, or the plastic pads, going to go on there like so. I bought a bunch of rubber pads. These have been cut up. Forgot how it even. Oh, those are the back ones. Those went like something like that, or some kind of thing. Anyway, I bought some carpet pads. They were $20, free shipping, heavy duty, nice pieces. Didn't really want to add another vendor to the list, but I tried making those fit, and numerous problems with them. Didn't like them, didn't like how busy all that was. And the other thing I didn't like was adding 20 pounds of floor mat to the car. That's like 10% of the weight of the chassis. So I went back to this, established vendor, $3 piece. Done that, real happy with the way that looks. Speaking of layout and all this, let me, can you come around here just a second, see if I can get around here? Go around that way. I want to show you one other thing here. You know, we talked about how one time I changed a muffler bracket, wound up changing the location of the gas pedal before it was all done. Same deal. With our new fuel tank, the old fuel tank had baffles in here, and those had dog bones for the baffles, and those dog bones kind of determined our carpet pattern here. Well, with our new fuel tank, we don't have those dog bones anymore, and that old pattern, it was decent and logical, but without them, we said, okay, can we make a pattern carpet that's not just decent and logical, but looks really cool? And so we've revised this carpet pattern. You can see these carpet shapes that are going to go in these scuppers right here. But here again, you have an example of something, two things so totally unrelated as a fuel tank baffle dictating your carpet layout in your cockpit. Here's a classic example of it. Speaking of the fuel tank, let's go around here. This is the new HDPE high density polyethylene. High density polyethylene fuel tank. You can see right here, I put, that was the 5-gallon mark there. This is a 10-gallon mark here. It's got 10 gallons of fuel in it. I'm doing a leak test on it, and I'm doing it a few gallons at a time for a couple of reasons here. One, I didn't really want to put 20 gallons of fuel in there and then find out I had a leak at gallon number 2. And 2, I'd like to keep track of the gallons and get an exact count of the fuel capacity here. It's supposed to be about 19 gallons, but we're going to find out. That's at 10. I'm putting another 5 in it now. We'll see if that leaks out anywhere. Something about testing this thing. Unfortunately, I can't do it with water. I've always wondered, I've known back from the go-kart racing days when you got fuel tanks leaking on those things, you can't test it with water because fuel will come out a hole that water will not come out of. And I've always wondered how can that be, because a water molecule is H2O and a fuel molecule is as long as your arm. And I thought, well, how could that bigger molecule, shouldn't it be a lot harder to go through a small hole? Huh? 14 and a half minutes? Well, All right, this is going to turn into 2 videos. Call it right here, and we'll come to the second one.